it's funny, we're 2 years into the AI journey, 3 years, maybe 4 years. I don't know. We could push the boundary. But my goodness, so I was there a year ago and it was all agentic, prompt engineering, agentic. And a year has passed and I haven't had any prompt engineering need. So no, I'm not right now. We're not hiring for agents. What the big thing that I'm hiring for is I need to hire for is like the DevOps role, Tomo, that developer who operationally knows how things work. And that I think is the sweet spot, right? Getting an architect who, those gray-haired, very senior purist, if you will, who do good work, and then getting that DevOps who knows how things connect. And that's right now my need.
Hi, welcome to the Data Brood podcast. This is Telmo Silva. I am the CEO of Click Data. This is a podcast that we started not too long ago about technology, data, and everything else in between, including AI, of course. It's a really hot topic. There's no hype. There's no buzzword bingo here. We're just talking between colleagues, ex-colleagues, old colleagues, new colleagues, customers, vendors, and we're just kind of exploring what's happening and how can we make our businesses run more efficiently. And today, I'm lucky to have a very good old friend of mine, Dan Valentino. Dan is a director of digital and store technologies at Home Hardware, a huge Canadian chain related to home hardware, obviously. Dan?
Telmo, thanks for having me. This is
Yeah,
great.
my
Yeah.
pleasure. Thanks for joining. What the
I don't
heck is
know.
a directory of digital and store technologies? Tell me more about that.
This is a great question. And before I answer that, I'll tell the listeners what Home Hardware does here in Canada in case
Great, thank you.
people aren't familiar. So Home Hardware Stores is a home improvement chain here in Canada. There's over 1,000 stores across the country of Canada. We're in every province, every territory. We service a lot of local communities, but we still have a national scale. We're a large company. And my role as director of digital and store technologies is really, it's very technology focused, and it's really connecting the digital strategy to our store reality. So the website, for example, is the front door for customers for Home Hardware. And then how do we get that customer from the front door into the store, and how do we make sure that in-store experience matches that digital experience? So I essentially own technologies like the e-commerce platform, marketing automations, marketing technology, through off until the point of sale system. So the point of sale system running in the store, the handheld devices that store associates use, and also all of this store technology that protects the stores, the network, the access points, and everything within the store.
Cybersecurity, yeah, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
so it's a broad portfolio. I have a wonderful team here at Home Hardware that I rely on day to day. But hopefully that gives you a sense, Telmo, for the things I do. It's very technology,
Absolutely.
and I'm here
So,
excited to talk about AI and how we use AI within here, Home Hardware.
yeah, no, absolutely. Just before we get into the more AI topics, being a dealer-owned cooperative model, is there a lot of innovation that comes from the stores themselves, or are the stores expecting your team and the central team to provide a strong direction, especially when it's going to get down to AI and the amazing amount of options that we have today? Or is it a mix of both?
It's a mix of both. We have scenarios, or we have stores that are very technically savvy. We even had a group of stores get invited by Microsoft to go to the Microsoft head office to do some innovation. And that was a store group that went to do innovation, mostly around teams workforce management, teams collaboration. And we have other stores that are not as reliant on technology. They're smaller mom and pop shops, are on the local streets of downtown Toronto. And they rely heavily on us to provide technology services for
Right.
the stores. Varies. And having over 1,000 stores in the network,
Yeah, a
you can
lot of.
appreciate there's varying, technology savvy folks out there in the network. Now, as far
Um,
as what AI they
yeah.
use, that much I don't know as much. I do know that a lot of them ask about it, but other outside of generative or chat I don't know of what else they might use in the stores.
So tell me a bit more about what, your teams use and in which areas. I mean, I hear a lot about ticket triaging and, as you said, GPT style of things. I mean, that's the first step. Everybody gets a subscription of Chat GPT or something like that, and they say, "Oh, this
Yeah.
is great." But how does it evolve from there? Where have you done it, and where have you been able to kind of not necessarily make a process out of it, but definitely control it or centralize it, and where you just let everybody do their own thing?
Yeah, well, we do here at Home Hardware, we don't have a rigid AI policy just yet. It is something we're working on, but I do know I can speak from technically what we've done for the organization. So we've enabled Copilot, so everyone uses Copilot. It's all connected to our Microsoft Azure account, so everyone has the ability to access Copilot. And we encourage people to use Copilot for their conversational generative AI. And that really is just the tip of the iceberg, right? They're using Copilot now instead of using Google search, or they're starting to use it more and more. And that we control that through our Azure policies, our Azure tenants. So we make sure that if you're doing analysis on employee salaries, we encourage use Copilot, and that way it stays within our four walls and it doesn't leak and grow or contribute to the models, the internet models. For my team, we've taken a step farther. So the developers, I'll start with the developers and then we'll get into
Hmm.
business. So the developers, we've all enabled Copilot GitHub. So we've gone and we've essentially said, okay, developers, we know you need this for your day to day. And especially for home hardware, we have a lot of legacy applications. We have a system, Telmo is probably 35 years old, and some of the code is older than, well, definitely older than our kids. I don't know about older than us. The listeners and viewers can see our gray hairs, but we had old pieces of code that the team now uses Copilot to say, what does this do? Give me a summary of what this does. Or now we're going through some transformation here organizationally. And this is really important because we look at this old code and there's like, okay, we need to go through and what does this old code do? So we use Copilot for GitHub to do that. Super helpful. And then we use it more than just for legacy applications, even for new applications. So on the website, the digital side, the team uses it for their JavaScript, for their Node, and they use it to optimize their code. There are some purists on my team, so even after code gets written, I think you probably would be one of the purists, Tamil. If you were on my team, you would be, "What does this do?" And you would not trust what the code does. But, for the most part, the team uses it to code and, help them with the coding.
Well, this is really interesting on the development side because this is obviously something dear, close to my heart because that's Click Data. A third of our team is made up of developers. That's all we do is develop the Click Data platform, and again now as being part of a larger group, the Team System group, we continuously discuss the concept of AI in the context of development. And we've had a lot of different views on it. But there are topics such as, you call them the purists. I think some people call them the senior developers that either adopt or resist. It could go both ways. So I kind of like what you said about purists, right? But there are some of them that say, that they they do use it as a tool, but they still do kind of the thinking themselves and structuring and kind of validate things as they go along. So
Yeah.
they use it more like an advanced IntelliSense, if you will, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
then you have others which are more junior developers that just say, yeah, just tell me what this does and tell me what I should be doing here to fix this, right? And then they will do their local thing and kind of say, yeah, that should be good enough. And one of my questions I had is what happens when the senior developers are gone, right? When they retire or when they move on, right? Are we now going to be left with a generation of junior developers, if you will, or developers that really have not been able to solve the problems without AI? Imagining if the AI that day is out and you still need to fix that thing,
Mhm.
will they be able to do it, right? So I start getting into what if scenarios. Have you guys had those kind of more philosophical questions as to the future of AI?
Yeah, and that's a great segue, Tomo, because we do have some senior technologists on the team, very senior, and they and I know I called them purists, but it's all about efficiency. They're very efficient, and so the way we're guiding our junior developers is, yeah, okay, great. We know you have Copilot for GitHub, but we still make them go through what I'll call a pseudo review. Like, okay, review with the team. What is the piece of code you're writing? How will you achieve this? So we're trying to combat this. We recognize and I think that every senior technologist who has a team of junior people need to do this with them. It's the only way we can continue to develop this talent and continue with the rigor and structure going forward. Because otherwise, and it's not about job security either, Telmo. It's not about, okay, well, let's just let AI. be the coders of the future. It's probably not the right, it's definitely not the right answer. And so I do think putting in rigor, especially if you're a dev shop and you have a lot of developers, having that mentorship or having the rigor behind, okay, junior developer, you got to meet with the senior folks. Let's go through a pseudo review of what
Right.
you're before you cut a line of code.
What I like to think about that is about passing on the experience of the senior developers, not necessarily in how to code or the coding or the structure,
Yeah.
because all that sometimes comes to preferences, but rather give the junior developers a more wide view onto the architecture of the platform or the impact of their change on the overall platform. So giving them a bit more architectural view of what a senior software engineer developer
Yeah.
would be able to provide or know either automatically just because of experience or because they took the time back then to learn line by line.
Yeah.
And that brings me to another kind of what if analysis is, do those senior developers and those purists like to train other people? In other words, I think we all, a lot of my guys, for example, are more into, let me do my work. I'm very kind of introverted personality.
Yeah.
I did not sign up to be training now junior developers and
Yeah.
review code.
Yeah.
And and that brings into a job description, that brings into job satisfaction. And will
Yeah.
you be able to keep those senior developers that now their role has changed?
Yeah.
And speaking of that, how do you see their role changing other than being more involved in reviewing the code with the junior developers? Are there other things that they need to be involved in that
Yeah.
current or before AI they weren't?
Yeah. Yeah. Developers, for the most part, they love being individual contributors, right? They love, I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to do this piece of work, and the good ones, and they're good, and that's their mo. Listen, for me, I try to say, okay, hey, I want you to be an individual contributor. You don't have to manage people, but they also you've got to play on the fact that these developers love that their code is good. They love that their thing is good.
Right.
And when you start working as a team, the reality is, okay, we're a team. Our code is going to have to be supported by multiple people. So how do you get them excited about sharing what they're good at with
The
some
responsibility of
their
being,
responsibility?
yeah.
Yeah. So I have architects on the team, and I made them architects, and they're very senior technical professionals, and they're not managers of people, and I don't. But what I do empower them to say, hey, you've done this great beautiful thing. We need to contribute to this great beautiful thing. How can we get these other developers on board with you? But you're right. It's and then there's some that just don't do it, Telmo, even then, right? And that's fine too. And I have the old analogy of developers, right? You put them in the room and close the door, and you leave enough space under the door to slide the pizza under, so they can get them.
We used to do that when we were younger. I think that's a lot of. Do you have an idea of the percentage of the development team that is not using AI at all versus the one that is using? I've heard some numbers around here. It's about 80% that are using AI, and 20%. And again, using your terminology, which I love, the purists
Yeah,
that are very much not using
yeah,
it
yeah.
or trying to stay away from it as much as I can. Is that similar to yours or?
I'll give you, because I have two. I have the digital team. Um, I can with a high degree of confidence tell them 100% of them use AI. If not to write full blown piece of code, but
They
if
will
they're
touch it.
in, they touch it, or yeah, give me, okay, review, give me an or condition, or give me this condition, optimize this condition. Like, everybody uses AI on the digital side. Everyone on the store side, Telmo, I would venture to say maybe 10% of the folks use AI, maybe.
Wow. Okay.
And the only
Interesting.
ones that do are actually, sorry, and it's growing, and I'll tell you why. The point of sale technology, the main one that I'm accountable for, we've deployed it to over 350 stores, but it's an older platform, Telmo. It's probably 30 years old. It's a DOS based. For those listening in Canada who go to a home hardware store, walk into any one of our stores and you can see the blue screen. That's ours. So we're giving this thing we're upgrading it, and we're actually going to put a Flutter front end on top of this back end. So anyways, all the Flutter people we're bringing on, Telmo, all of them use AI. They have to. They
Right.
have to. There's just, You have to imagine there's a 30-plus-year-old asset that runs our business in the stores. You can't just start from scratch and rebuild.
Is it a proprietary one or is it an old vendor?
No, it's an old vendor, so it's built on a technology called Open Edge from a Progress. So
Okay.
Progress, it's a 4GL. Apparently, it's very popular in Europe. It's popular in the banks. It
So
wasn't. It
that
got to
yeah,
home
so
button. I recognize it.
yeah, what I was gonna get with that is that maybe that is potentially also the reason why they don't use it is that there's not enough there for GPT to help them with, or
Yeah,
to any Copilot or GitHub does not
yeah.
have enough to help them reliably potentially, right?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. So we had a scenario maybe a month ago. We're upgrading this old Progress point of sale system, and I was with one of the main developers, and I said, "Hey, can you pop in a chunk of Progress code, put it into Copilot, and see if it knows what it's doing or what the code does?" And it did. It had an idea, so it knew, right? Like it has.
It has the basic. Yeah, okay, interesting.
Yeah. So I should go back to the team and just ask them if that little grassroots thing that I in passing, I passed by the guy's desk and said, "Hey, can you pop
Right.
that in Copilot? What does that do?" I should probably go back and say, "Hey, are you using it more than you did before?" So, but I still stand by my like 100% of the digital team all use AI. I'm gonna go with 10-15% of the store team uses AI.
And yeah, you know what? I do not blame people that want to use AI and so forth because even the languages are changing and evolving every day, right? There's always a better, different way, a more performant way to do it. And GPT kind of filters through all that noise and it bypasses the opinions of the individual developers and says, well, this is how you should use it. And whether they use it or not, it's up to them. And this is great for the technical team in terms of the business users, in terms of the other areas, your job
Yeah.
as management. Where do you see that this is happening? Is HR? Is there support? Which departments are kind of adopting this, and have you seen any positive movement in that in some areas within the business side of the
Yeah,
business?
within the business side, because we don't have an official policy or way of working with AI, you see like grassroots within pockets of the team. So I have a couple examples. The easiest one that I think is very relatable is content for the site,
Yes,
creative content,
marketing. Yeah,
marketing. Yeah. So we would do things like, and this is interesting, and I don't know if we'll talk about how AI is integrated with technology, but we use a content management system called Contentful, and we enabled OpenAI, or we enabled ChatGPT within the tool. That way, when you're a content creator and you're creating content and you're in Contentful, you can use AI to create content,
directly.
and you give
Nice.
it instructions. What's the tone, what's the brand, what's the audience. We defined all those constructs and we integrated. We spent time integrating it into the tool, and then we just found out that they just use Copilot outside of the tool or ChatGPT outside the tool, and they just do it that way. And I have a lot of examples of this, and right now I have this little, I don't want to call it existential, but I'm working with Microsoft and said, Microsoft, you got to get your agentic and your Copilot strategy in place, because we have a Copilot for our customer data platform. We have a Copilot for our marketing automation. We have a Copilot for our Fabric, our analytics platform. We have Copilot for teams. Like all these Copilots exist individually, which is great. But then you have agentic. Like, okay, go create an agent for over this and unify these things. And I'm unleashing co-pilots to so many parts of the business, and I sometimes, not sometimes, I am concerned that they don't, they're working within isolation, and so there's more work than I care to do, and I feel like it's something that, let's say, Microsoft does. Anyways, I didn't mean to sidetrack, but
No, but that's a very interesting thing because we're kind of finding the same, kind of more or less the same issues, right? I mean, we went from using Copilot, GitHub integrated into the IDE of the developers, and then somebody came in and said, "Yeah, but Mistral is really good," and then some GPT released or OpenAI released Codex. They go, "Oh, Codex, man, that's incredible! It just did the work of 4 days in 1 hour."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we're always chasing our own tails. And at some point in time, we kind of just have to, all right, stop with the models. They're good enough or not, but this is, stick with this so that we can improve upon it. And then of course there's the other side of the coin, which is, as you use an agent or use a plugin to put into your content management system or use a plugin into Teams, are they really using the same? Because we don't know what happens behind the scenes, right? It's
Ah,
everybody
exactly.
says it's OpenAI, it's OpenAI. Well, it's not, right? We've tried basically using 5.2, using the ChatGPT and using 5.2 of the OpenAI, and they behave substantially different, right? There's a lot of tweaking, a lot of protection that they add as well that potentially can change how the results come back to you. So it's frustrating in that sense. By the same token, as you said, we're not in the business of creating the models ourselves. We're not in the business of running those things ourselves. We
Yeah.
rely on partners to do it. So that balance to me is a little bit difficult to say. Do we rely on third parties for all this, even if they're four-walled, as you said? I know that it's not going to be used for training and it's not going to be used for other things. Still, we have very little control over if they tweak something on the back end, we'll never know what they've tweaked,
We'll
right?
never know. Yeah. Yeah. And it
That's kind of a challenge for a business, I would
yeah.
say.
And I know this is true, and I'm gonna give you an and you get these whoa moments when you go through the ad, I'm like, "Oh, shit, I didn't realize that you're starting to know me better than I know me." That's
Yeah.
another thing too that's shocking because I was working on something and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I did that 6 weeks ago, and thank you for reminding me." Anyways, I thought that was interesting. Going back to other use cases we that the business so marketing, they use it. The merchandising team, we use AI within our contract management system. When we start to work on new contracts with vendors, we use AI to go back and see, okay, is this a is this a declining contract? What are the terms that we've done before? What's the volumes we've done before? So
Right.
it's been very, very helpful managing some contracts. And then we have the standard agents over SharePoint to help with knowledge base. So we build agents.
SharePoint is still around. That's good.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yes, it's still around, and it's not it's
It's
not
not
your
as
dad
bad as before.
it's not your daddy's SharePoint. No, no, the way they've integrated or the way you can leverage the Power Platform with SharePoint,
It's good. Nice.
it's gone beyond what it was before. But I know there's a whole world of, let's say, Notion and
Yes.
and Atlassian born tools, and then you have the Microsoft suite. And You know, I didn't know, Telmo, if it's the gray hair age. I don't get fussed about tools like I used to.
Just use something and get it done. Yeah. No,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Developers though. You must know that, like, obviously you've got so many developers. They're so finicky, right? They're so sometimes they get so particular, and just finding the balance is interesting. Anyways, I don't mean to sidetrack. That could be a topic for another.
Absolutely. I actually suggested that as one of the topics too. I was talking about centralization versus decentralization. Let's
Yeah,
get on to another podcast in the future.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Listen, getting back onto the A track, on the AI track, not A track. um, Overall, in terms of the organization, and maybe we can start at the top management all the way to the operations and developers, etc. What is the overall feeling of AI in your opinion? Like, how do you feel that are there things that they're excited about, specific things skeptical? Are they worried about their jobs? Are there people kind of coming to you and saying, "Hey, will you need me 2, 3 years from now?"
Yeah.
And how are you managing those internal expectations? And obviously your directors, your bosses,
Mhm.
how do you manage their expectations? Because I keep hearing about, whether it's true or not, that Salesforce one day fires 4,000 and then rehires them a week later because they thought they could do it. Oracle, the same thing. Microsoft, the same thing. So, and I don't know how much of this is true or not, but is there this pressure on you to kind of say you need to do more with less because of AI?
Yeah, no. That's a short answer, and I'll elaborate more. There isn't that pressure, Delman, and oddly enough, I'm not getting pressure from the workforce, at least my direct organization. So the 80, 90 plus people that roll into me, I'm not getting that pressure. I'm getting more things about privacy concerns. Okay, can I use it to do this work? Can I use it to do that work? So I'm not getting the pressure of, oh, will it take my job? But I am getting the pressure, and it's not pressure, it's just more of how do we make
How do we
sure that
manage?
how do we manage and how do we serve our dealer community more closely, right? So we have to remember, so we are I'll call it a cooperative, right? So 1,000 stores. huge retailer, probably in the top 5 largest retailers in Canada. We have the big ones, Canadian Tire, Loblaw, et cetera, but we are a large retailer. But it is decentralized in a way, right? The stores manage their workforce, and I don't know a lot of because it's retail focused, there probably isn't as much pressure to reduce workforce or pressure to
Right.
perform. On the services side, like the head office side, we want to be more efficient, and we want to be we want to drive the cost to serve to our dealers, right? So we do reorganize our team often. We are focused on making sure that we're optimizing. We honestly, we're not really talking about how AI will help us do that. We're more structuring ourselves to be better at or doing the right things for the dealers. And I know that sounds like a broad thing, but for example, should we be investing, tens of millions of dollars in a program that maybe only one or two stores really want to adopt? Anyways, those are the things we're focused on. For
Hmm.
my team, I am, especially on the store side, I'm trying to push the store team. And it's not push, I'm encouraging the store team to think about how you can be more efficient. I'm going to let them organically discuss, and they know about AI. They know, obviously, they all use AI, but I want them to more organically grow how they change their way of working to be more efficient. No one's come to me about they're worried about job security because everyone's busy. Everyone's busy, and we have a strong business. So no, the short answer, I did elaborate, but that's
Yeah. And no pressure from management from anywhere in terms of, that you have AI and you're spending, as they start seeing the line item open AI or a Copilot go up, what am I getting for this now? Like,
yeah,
before that line was not there, and now it's there. Like,
it's there.
what has changed? What are you giving me in return?
Yeah. Well, so the first thing, the biggest, I wouldn't call it concern, but the priority right now is to have a an AI use policy, right? We want to have an AI use policy. I won't share all the details about the AI use
Sure,
policy.
no.
I think the listeners or you can assume what it is, right? Like how do you use
Yeah.
AI to do your work?
Yeah, of course.
And there'll be some resemblance of you really should be using the AI that's I'm going to use the word sanctioned. It's probably the wrong word, but it's the AI that home hardware provides. So please use
Yes.
Copilot,
The internalized one. Yeah.
the internalized one, and we'll provide the reasons why we want you to use the internalized. This is not
Right.
a big brother thing. It's just, if you're doing, if HR is doing analysis on salary and what's the salary
You don't
other,
want to put that data outside. Yeah.
so
Makes
things like
sense.
that. And then it starts to, and over time we can then also put other rules in AI. Anyways, that's the plan. Now, as far as the cost, it's growing, but not exponentially. And what I mean by that, so we
Yeah.
have provided some what I'll call enterprise Copilot licenses. That list is growing, and it's growing. Well, it's not growing. The list of people who want it is grown, but how many people we've given it to is still locked. We're not
Mm,
giving it. But now the AI within the tools that we use everywhere, tell me like that is growing, right? Like every
mm,
time a developer comes on board, we give them a Copilot Enterprise. When we enable an agent on a SharePoint site, the very useful SharePoint site,
mm.
that consumption grows, right? So it's slowly growing. So what's hidden? Okay, what's hidden is the individual business units buying their own Chat GBT
Right. Right.
that I don't quite have the line of sight on. I'm sure if I went to finance and said, "Hey, tell me everyone who's got a Chat GBT subscription," they would.
There's going to be a few around. Sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
That's normal.
a lot of people tell me, I don't know if you're seeing this. A lot of people pay out of pocket. They pay out of
Yeah.
pocket.
Absolutely.
They're like, "Hey, this is going to help me," and they pay out of pocket.
Well, I absolutely do that. I mean, at some point in time, having a small GPT license for $20 a month, it's not the end of the world, and it kind of helps me along the line. But yeah, no, that's interesting. Is there a governance AI team composed of different
No, there is.
departmental units, or is there no?
Yeah,
Okay,
there
interesting.
isn't.
Okay,
It's I I mentioned it briefly. We're still very immature. We're beginning our AI journey. Tell me,
I think a lot of companies are. It's
yeah.
not.
And as much as I say that, and it's almost hypocritical, right? I say we're beginning our journey, but I just spent the last 20 minutes talking about all the AI things we do. Because it happens, right? Like within the
Absolutely.
tools,
Yeah.
like it's the only way, not the only way. It's the best way to move forward. So we just need a policy to help with some governance, and then we all have a
Mm.
common way of working, and then we'll see more adoption, I'm sure.
I compare this to back in the olden days where everybody got their Visual Studio license or whatever IDE, and there was not, there was not even like code repositories around, right?
Yeah.
And then they start thinking, okay, well, we need to put this all centralized, the code repositories. Okay, now we need guidelines on what you can and cannot do, and over time that evolves. And I think if you think about it, we've only been like 2-3 years into this thing, right? I mean, 3 years ago, we were not having discussions about GPT. Many people did not know what it was. So it's very early stages. And this is kind of interesting is these are the histories and the stories that will shape kind of the next step. um, just kind of closing it off a little bit. Is this going to be changing the way you hire in the future? Do you look for prompt engineers? Is prompt engineering even a real thing, a transitory thing for you, or is it
Yeah.
um, or what are you thinking about in the future? How will this change the workforce in the future, and how will you hire for it?
Yeah. It's funny, prompt engineering. So I was at a Microsoft conference last March, and the conference was very much. It's funny. You were 2 years into the AI journey, 3 years, maybe 4 years. I don't know. We could push the boundary. But my goodness, so I was there a year ago, and it was all agentic, prompt engineering, agentic, and a year has passed, and I haven't had any prompt engineering need. The big thing that I'm hiring for is I need to hire for is like the DevOps role, Tamil, that developer who operationally knows how things work. And that I think is the sweet spot, right? Getting an architect who, those gray-haired, very senior purist, if you will, who do good work, and then getting that DevOps who knows how things connect. And that's right now my need.
Mm,
Prompt engineering, I've seen nothing. Maybe more mature organizations have had it or see it, but I haven't seen the need for it just yet.
thank you. One final question: where do you see this going? Give me one bold prediction for retail
One
AI.
bold prediction for retail.
One bold prediction. Where do you think AI is going to impact retail in or your sector?
Yeah,
Or if you can't think of one, something that keeps you up at night, something big about
something big.
AI.
I'll start with the last 2, 3 years. Every vendor that's come in to wanna sell something, they're all they start with their AI capabilities. AI for this, AI for this. I everyone's making an investment. Every company's making an investment, and they wanna sell to you. At some point, um, we've gotta simplify it. I probably shouldn't use it. I use that analogy of we spent a lot of time and we built AI into one of our tools, and then they don't even use it. They just use, an agent. I had other examples too of where we spent months to do self-contained AI. We built a subscription in Azure. We did this whole AI work, and we had a self-contained knowledge base.
Yeah.
And then we realized, oh, we could have just built an agent over SharePoint. Damn, that's the fifth time I've mentioned that. um, So my bold prediction is it'll become so seamless, Telmo, and I don't know if you know about the agents talking to agents. There's videos out there, YouTube channels, and
Yeah.
agents.
Quite funny.
It's quite funny. So yeah, my bold prediction is that the AI will be demystified. People will use it in their generative day to day, and then we will embed various things within our processes. And that's not even a bold prediction. That's just naturally happening.
Yeah. Very
So
good.
that was kind of a lame, bold prediction if someone was waiting for a bold prediction.
That is a very good one, actually. And this reminds me of the time when the big API movement was out,
Yes.
sometime after Web 2.0, I think. Between Web 2.0 and big data, I think it was. That's how you mark the fad lines. And
Yeah,
there was
yeah,
a stock, and there was a bubble crash somewhere in the middle.
yeah,
Um, and how APIs were going to resolve all the world's problems of intercommunication. They would get rid of EDI. They would get rid of a million and one things.
yeah,
And we're still here, building APIs differently, etc. I think agents have that capability of going beyond and being better at it. But I'm also conscious of the risks that in the end, the agents can only do what the code tells them to do, and the functionality sometimes can be misunderstood, or the agent itself can misunderstood what needs to be done. So I'm concerned about those type of misalignments and
yeah,
misunderstandings in terms of the building of those agents.
yeah.
And yeah, and I'm glad you told me about building that knowledge base, because that's exactly what we're doing now. We're doing it a little bit potentially not on SharePoint, that's for sure. But because we do adopt different technologies, we use Slack for communication, we use
Mhm.
Notion, we use Dropbox, we have our own database of support tickets and help systems and things like that. We have our website. We kind of try to put everything into the same machine, if you will, into the same AI, so that we internally can have a conversation with somebody at this machine that can actually knows more about the company than I do, and knows where the information is faster, right? That's hopefully where, things are going. But maybe just like you, we kind of go, well, maybe we could just get a Notion agent, get a Dropbox agent, and kind of have them talk to each other. If that exists, obviously that probably would have been the smarter way to do it. And probably the way that we'll end up doing. So
Yeah.
Dan, any final thoughts on this conversation? Was there something that we should have talked about and we didn't?
No, I mean, we could have probably spent another hour talking more philosophically, like, does AI really think, Telmo? Is it really thinking? I don't know, right? I had this analogy that I stole from a CBC reporter about if AI were to, like, when you go into a restaurant and kids have the little menu with the maze, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
that maze within like a minute. And AI can finish it in like seconds, but the kid, in fact, is more effective at finishing that maze than AI. Anyways, that will save for another day and why a kid is more efficient at finishing those puzzles than AI would be.
I'd like to quote somebody else. I don't know who came up with this. And it's the second podcast that I do that I quote the same thing, which is only humans could build something so smart that they can't even understand what he does. And that to me is really what ultimately this technologies is impressing us, is because we actually have no way how he'd figured it out, right? How he knows that about me, how, all those wow moments that you came
Yeah.
across.
Yeah.
Nobody coded that. There was no if statement there.
Nope.
If they ask this, answer this. No, there was nothing like that.
All
Listen,
right.
thank you very much, Dan. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for sharing home hardware and your position and your role and your team's experience. And thanks as well to our viewers and listeners for tuning into this podcast. I hope this added some value to your day-to-day, to your work, to your knowledge. Always happy to hear comments from you. Just send it to telmo.silva@clickdata.com. That's directly to me, so there's no filtering. Until next time, this is the Data Brew Podcast. Thank you very much.